Hello, my name is Rory Guest. I almost said Rassilon Productions then, but I've completely removed that now. But
You've
yes, hello, my name,
regenerated.
I've regenerated. I am reborn. Yes, hello, my name is Rory Guest, and sorry, that feels so weird. Hello, my name is Rory Guest, and I'm hosting a talk which is back after so long, and I'm here with the one, the only Ivy Hanover. Introduce yourself.
Hello, my name is Ivy Hanover. I go on social media by Protagonist Ivy, which is different from what it used to be because everybody was just calling me that anyway. I am a YouTuber for the most part. I try to upload as often as I can. A Gallifreyan scribe, a cat mom, and I just do all sorts of random stuff, really. But most importantly, I'm a massive Doctor Who fan, which I'm sure will come up quite a lot. So.
Really? I don't know where that would come up. What?
I like it a little.
Just a bit.
A little.
I mean, first of all, how are you? How are you since
I'm doing
Gallifrey One?
good. I'm doing good. I've been missing Gallifrey One. But things have been so busy since then that, we just said it's been about 2 months, and that really doesn't feel true because so much has happened just in life and with the show starting again that it just feels like that was 2 minutes ago.
Yeah, no, I mean, I really miss Gallifrey One. It's been, as you said, 2 months since then. So I mean, we both met at Gallifrey One actually. I mean, that was
Yes.
for the very first time, which was lovely, and it was a lovely time. What did you think about this year's? What are some of your favorite moments, memories?
Oh, this year was my favorite year ever. This year happened to be very perfectly tailored to my Doctor Who interests. One of my favorite spin-offs of Doctor Who is the Gallifrey audio series, which is, of course, about Gallifrey.
Mm,
Um, and it's got, Leela, Romana, the Doctor's brother, Irving Braxitel, a character that was created for this series called Narvin, and the actor who plays Narvin, the actor who plays Braxitel, so Sean Carlson and Miles Richardson, respectively, were there, and then Louise Jameson was also there. So I got to meet three out of the four of the main cast, and that was just a dream come true.
they're all absolutely lovely. I mean, I'm so glad I got to meet most of them as well. I met Sean, of course.
Mhm.
It was just he's a star, isn't he? He's just absolutely so nice.
Yeah.
They all are. And kind of speaking of that series, Big Finish series, Gallifrey, what kind of drew you to the series originally in the
So I
beginning?
think I have been aware of Gallifrey for a long time, like I'm talking like 10 years. And I would I didn't start it until 2020, but I had been aware of it and I saw so much on social media about it, like fan art and memes and just people talking about the story. And it seemed kind of right up my alley just because I love like Time Lord lore. I
Mm.
love to hate the Time Lords themselves, but I like learning more about them and how they work as people, as a culture, as a planet. And when 2020 hit, COVID started, we were in lockdown, and I think everybody chose one thing to latch on to as a new experience. And I was like, okay, well, I've wanted to listen to this series for forever, and I have adult money now, so it's time.
Honestly, fair enough. What was your kind of lockdown like, actually? What was that sort of like for you?
Um, I wasn't too bad. I have been trying to recall a lot of it lately because I always keep a diary and a journal and try to be very intense with how much I write in that. But when COVID happened, I actually didn't write in it. I think because everything was so weird but I really wish I had because what a weird, crazy time in history that we lived through.
I don't
Um,
understand why you wouldn't write in it, because that time sort of meshed into one. Like it was just one big
yeah.
ball, really. It just, it was sort of locked down in itself. Like the concept of time was just kind of non-existent for me, at least.
Yeah. And so when the fifth anniversary hit, which is crazy to think about, back in March, that was when I kind of sat down and wrote about it in my diary. Um, but and it brought up so much for me because I realized like how scary it was at first. Eventually as things sort of petered out, and it's still scary. COVID is still around, obviously, but in the beginning when we like truly had no idea
Mm.
what it was, like it was so scary at first. And then, I think I managed quite well,
Mm.
better than I thought I would. I really liked being in high school, believe it or not. And then obviously that was cut short by COVID. And so at first I was completely devastated. But I had so many friends online, and that was 2020 was really when I got into the Doctor Who fandom. I had been watching the show for way longer than that, but 2020 was when I actually like joined the
Step up.
community. And so that really helped because all of a sudden I had so many new friends and I was experiencing so much new stuff like Gallifrey, some classic Doctor Who. I watched the TV movie for the first time, I think the first week of lockdown. I got obsessed with that. So,
Mm.
yeah, it was a weird time, but I think I managed well, and I think my fandom and nerdiness really helped with that.
I think it was a time where kind of nerdiness and geekiness and all that kind of prospered, really. I mean, it was
Hmm.
a terrible time, don't get me wrong. I mean, for everywhere, but we had the Lockdown Who, we had the short stories coming out, we had people
Yes.
banding together to raise money for charity all the time. I mean, it was, and as you said, I mean, you kind of took that step into that world during that time. I mean, I myself did as well. And it is, yeah, I mean, while it was a terrible time, obviously globally and in terms of COVID, it did bring a lot of people together and it brought a lot of people
Mhm.
creatively together and a lot of, it's just a shame it had to be under those circumstances,
Yeah.
but no,
Yeah, as things got more and more, back to normal, I wasn't participating in as much as of the rewatches just because time zone wise it was never when I could join. But I'll always remember that first one, which I believe was Day of the Doctor.
mm,
And just like I even got all dressed up for it, and that was just so special.
yeah,
Like,
no, it was a really, I don't know, those lockdown specials. I mean, they came at the perfect time. It was the perfect
mhm.
idea and really well done. I mean, it was, yeah, no, it was a really just, yeah, it was a great time for Whovian to kind of be collaborative. Obviously, again, not a great time globally, not a great
Yeah.
time for the
We
reason we were
made the
doing it,
best of
but
it, is what I like to
we
say.
made the best.
We're not saying it was a great time, but we're saying we made the best of it.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
exactly. I mean, um, and kind of speaking of going outside into the world and Gallifrey One as well, kind of going back to that. Of course, you've got the ribbons behind you there, which are
Yes.
lovely. I mean,
Many, many. I had to flip this one around, mind you. Apparently there was an expletive, a swear word on one of them,
oh,
and it was visible in like all of my videos. And then I was did a quick bit in a friend's documentary, and he was like, "Hey, just so you know, you might want to flip it around." And so I did. So that's a funny ribbon in the background story. Now I like double checked all the ones that
Mm.
were in front just to make sure.
I mean, it was really wonderful at Gallifrey One collecting ribbons because we don't really have that over here. I know there's a few UK conventions trying to adopt it at points, but it's not really a sort of culture that conventions have picked up on over here. It's really, really
Mhm.
wonderful. I love that sort of. Again, it helps the community sort of feel the Gallifrey One, and
Yeah.
yeah, and I loved this year as well. But it was honestly one of the best experience ever, and I'm so glad that I got to go. But for anyone who hasn't gone to Galley and is planning to go in future, what advice would you have for someone planning to go?
Okay, so
Who's
my advice first and foremost would be don't wait or hesitate because we do unfortunately only have 3 years of Gallifrey One left. Um the people who have run Gallifrey One for almost 40 years, they've done an amazing job and they kind of just want to close out that chapter on their own terms. There are plans for another convention to happen after Gallifrey One at, same time, same place. But for Gallifrey One specifically, we only have 3 years left. So I would say do not wait, especially because you never know that second to last year and last year could be very hard to get tickets. So I would stay very vigilant and try to get that sorted now if you're able to. My next best advice would be I know there's a lot of Gallifrey One vlogs out there. I have some of them. I would watch some of those just to get a good idea of what it's like. There is a Gallifrey One Facebook page, or a Facebook group, sorry, for attendees called Gallifrey One fans, friends and attendees, I believe.
Yes, yeah.
But that group is amazing to join because if you're a newcomer and you ask like, "Hey, what is this or what is this?" People will be so nice and answer you. The website is pretty good, just to get a general sense of their offerings and what is there. So I would definitely read up on it, but I think talking to people who have gone is the best bet because they'll always have the best advice, the best tips, stuff like that.
Yeah, 100%. I think that does go for most conventions and most Doctor events, but I think talking to you there at Gallifrey One really helped me kind of adjust to it all and really, introduced me to that world, which was lovely. And everyone that was there at Brooklyn, everyone,
Mhm.
that I kind of met there, it's there is a real sense of community with that event, and it's lovely. And I hope whatever comes in future is just as bright and lovely, and I'm
Yeah.
sure it will be. Sort of taking that sort of theme of kind of community and that sort of question, sort of making it broader. Like in regards to fandom, there's a lot of social dynamics at play, a lot of moving different parts, and it can be quite hectic at times, but it can be the most embracing and lovely environment you could be in. But what are your sort of thoughts when it comes to those sort of said social dynamics?
It can get interesting, especially in the Doctor Who fan community, because, back in the day, a lot of Doctor Who fans grew up to kind of be involved in the show or with Big Finish. And so there's a lot of different types of Doctor Who fans. You have fans who I hate using the term professional fans, but they do have professional aspirations, is I think the best way to put it. There's amazing graphic designers, audio producers, writers, in the fan community. And then you have, Tumblr sorts of fans who are typically, when you think of the word fangirl or like fandom, you think of their behavior or their type of humor and, fan edits, things like that. So it's always interesting to me because um I don't think the two camps always understand each other
There's
because
definitely some
yeah,
conflict at times,
there's
definitely.
been memes that are very normal for memes or things like, shipping the most random characters ever, things like that, where they'll kind of cross over into the more, I guess, normie Doctor Who fan community, and they're like, what? This makes no sense, or this isn't funny. Like, and it's just like, no, but it is just over here. Like,
It's different crowds, different circles of people.
yeah.
I do love that they can coexist, that they can exist in this
Mhm.
community, because I think we have a very layered and very diverse community, which is lovely. It's
Yes.
absolutely lovely that we can have these different circles. I mean, uh, when you first joined the fandom, what sort of circle did you fall into? What sort of
I
area?
was definitely more in the Tumblr realm of things. I had been doing my YouTube channel just for this comic book series that I like. Decided to do a Doctor Who review, and eventually that kind of led me into more of the like Doctor Who Twitter kind of. I don't know. I don't know how to name the camp because normie camp doesn't sound right because not only does it sound rude, but we're
What's
also not that normal in a good
criticism?
way.
Yeah,
But
no, no. I
the
don't.
non the non-Tumblr.
Yeah,
I don't
the
know. We
metaverse.
need to brainstorm a name.
Mm,
But I was very much in the Tumblr sort of way. I was writing fan fiction and found a group of friends that way. And then, slowly but surely got into the wider community through Twitter mainly.
mm,
And I would say I'm still in separate camps. I don't use Tumblr as much as I would like to because these days it is like the better of the social medias,
mm.
but that's my roots. That's where I come from.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I mean, Tumblr's a nice place to get started, really, especially back in the day, of course. I mean, I was never
Mhm.
really on Tumblr to begin with. In fact, I've never been on there. I really began
Really?
anything. No, I've never been on
It's
Tumblr.
it's really nice these days. I think it's more nice if you've been there. Not that, newcomers can't come on over, but it's so much slower
Mm,
and it's so much nicer. Like,
mm,
it's a lot more easier to curate your feed and what you're seeing, number one, which is not a thing on Twitter these days, pretty much.
yeah.
Um, posts tend to last for longer and circulate for longer
Mm,
because of just the way that the search and tags are set up. I mean, somebody could reblog a post that was from 10 years ago,
yeah,
and all of a sudden
I
it's back in
talk
circulation.
about posts from like 2011. It's kind of,
Yeah.
it's crazy to see. It's crazy to see people talking about posts from that long ago. But yeah, no, it's really fascinating to me, all of these social dynamics in the community. And obviously, I feel like we have different factions depending on what people do, whether it be fan films, fan audios, reviews. And, I do feel like there's a lot of people that talk between those groups and, and I think it's exciting, but I can imagine it can be a bit daunting to newcomers at times.
Yeah.
As can most fandoms, to be honest, but I do think that we have one of the more welcoming ones. And maybe that's bias talking, but I do
No,
think,
I think we do too, because I know like Doctor Who fans can be very divisive, and there's a lot that can be going on at one specific time, but I think both things are true. I think it's extremely welcoming. I think it's very easy to find your group of people. And even if you like the most like niche Doctor Who thing, you're probably gonna be able to find someone who is also into that you can
mm,
talk with and bloom from there. And maybe there will be some fighting or some division, but on the whole, I mean, other than the occasional discourse, I've never had a super strong problem with
yeah,
Doctor Who fans. I mean, other than obviously there's unfortunately some bigots and some misogynists that
unfortunately,
are
there
roaming around us, but other than that, I mean, yeah, I do think Doctor Who fans are still welcoming. So,
100%. And you're right, there are bigots and misogynists and sexists and transphobes, and it is unfortunate that I don't think I've seen a fandom without them, which is unfortunate.
yeah.
I think,
Well, and especially when you get into the older properties like Star Trek,
yeah,
Star Wars, you have, people that have older ideals and are very protective of what came before. And unfortunately, when you mix the two together, you get somebody who is really upset about anybody who's not a white man playing the doctor, something
yeah,
along those lines. So,
yeah. And I
yeah.
mean, sort of talking about that and talking about representation, I mean, Doctor Who has drawn in a lot of fans from the LGBT community, which is truly wonderful. And this is kind of a question I'm stealing from Crystal D because because I was asked this at the Gallifrey Cabaret, and it was a question I was kind of flustered on because I haven't been openly queer until now, and now but it was a question that I feel like I would like to ask. What do you think about Doctor Who appeals to the kind of queer community as much as it has?
So much.
No, some
Um, I can't speak for Classic Who fans, but I will say that I have read from a lot of them just the sense of the Doctor seemingly being asexual, not really, he's not your typical hero where, there's always a female character that he's romancing or saving, or maybe there's a will they, won't they. Like, romance was never really a big part of classic Doctor Who at all. I mean, you can see some dynamics where you can be like, oh, maybe they were a little bit into each other, but you can also see it that wasn't happening at all. And so I think that was probably comforting for a lot of queer people to not have that traditionally heterosexual way of telling a story and creating a hero. As for New Who, I think certainly having Russell T Davies, a gay man, be in charge of the revival, and there is so much in the way of camp, but just references to queerness or characters who are openly queer, like Captain Jack Harkness, the Doctor, they kiss.
pretty much the entire
Um,
Torchwood team, like every
yeah,
single
the
one,
entire
every
Torchwood team.
single one of them.
But I still think, the Doctor is a big part of it. Even when romance gets involved in New Who, like the Doctor is still not this traditionally super masculine
Yeah,
heterosexual hero. And he's, accepting of all people. And so as a queer person, I can see how that would be really comforting. And it is comforting for me to be like, yeah, the Doctor gets it. He, isn't, bigoted or anything like that. There's just there's so much of it. And I want to say also like the weirdness of it all.
Mm,
I think when you're queer and society sort of labels you that way or, thinks of you as weird, I think people are drawn to the more weird stuff in a great way because I don't mean weird in a negative way.
no,
I
I
don't mean
agree.
like something that's weird like it sucks. I mean something that's weird in that it's very creative and out there and different.
Mm,
And when you're seen as and in a way feel very different and out of traditional boxes, you're going to be drawn to what's like you.
yeah.
And so I think yeah, there's just so much. It feels like almost every part of who is just calling out to queer people, basically.
I couldn't agree more. And I mean, even looking back at Gallifrey and the Time Lords and that society and how, like, and I mean this in the best possible way, and obviously Gallifrey, the audio series explores this, but the society is painted as boring. It is a boring
Yeah.
society of observers that look over everything, don't get involved. They wear the same robes or like different colors of the same robe. They have a very stagnant society and a
Hmm.
very kind of backward society now, but also forward thinking in some ways, obviously. But I think what speaks to me as a queer person as well is the fact that the Doctor chose to run away from that. That the Doctor,
Hmm.
this is boring, this is not who I am, this is not reflective of what I want to be. And a lot of it came down to fear, a lot of it came down to boredom and curiosity. Curiosity being the driving force of the show. And
Yeah.
I think that really reflects upon queer history and queer people. And yeah, no, I mean, kind of speaking of that, I mean, we're both queer content creators
Mm.
who both understand the importance of representation and representation in Dot 2. But how do you feel? How do you feel the current era? What are your thoughts on that in relation to that?
I've been really enjoying it. First of all, I identify as a lesbian, and so I believe the 15th Doctor in Boom was the first time they actually used the word lesbian in
Mm,
Doctor Who, which is crazy because there was an actual lesbian character in Bill Potts. I swear somebody said
yeah,
that that was the first time it was ever said because Bill, of course, says, I date women or something along those lines, but I don't believe the word lesbian was ever used.
I think it was used in Devil's Cord because Maestro says
Oh, okay. So
Devil's
maybe,
Cord
yeah,
is.
but it was 15's era where the first time that they say the word lesbian, which is really crazy to think about. But I think it's been great. I mean, I really like especially the doctor using the word lesbian because it just references how the doctor is, essentially gender fluid, pansexual. Obviously, our earthly labels would never truly be applicable to the doctor. But, it just references how many different people and how many different experiences and perhaps attractions that he's had throughout his life. And then Shudigatwa, I believe, does identify as queer.
Mm,
And so I do see a lot of like myself and my community in his doctor.
yeah.
And yeah, there was Rogue, which was I have mixed feelings about the episode, but still, having the doctor be as a man currently have a relationship with a man, kiss a man, dance with
Mm,
him, like it's been really great. So,
yeah, no, I mean, when watching that episode, I hadn't come out. I wasn't open as a bi man.
mm,
I hadn't really even delved into those feelings. So seeing the Doctor kind of have that relationship, talk with Rogue and hug and kiss and dance, it was something special to see. Completely unrelated, but I can't stop looking at your background. Would you like to walk through what kind of each section or
yes.
like what you kind of have there?
So I don't so I have my manga up here, which I don't have a lot of it anymore just because I'm a completionist. And when there's a manga, there's a lot of volumes and that gets expensive. So I just gave up. This is my fanzine shelf for Doctor Who fanzines because I ended up with two empty shelves and I wanted to show those off. Similarly, this is another fanzine shelf. I used to be subscribed to Celestial Toy Room. For financial reasons, I'm not anymore. But um, down there, my comic book trades, which are basically collections of volumes. And then up there, I'm my K-pop shelf.
That's
And then these two shelves are dedicated to a K-pop group called Luna,
mhm.
which is a very long story. They started as a 12 member group called Luna. Their company was awful, which we found out in 2022, and they kicked out one of the members, and then all of the members started trying to get out of their contracts, and that's been a 2 year or 3 year journey for some of them. Um, and we actually just found out today that the remaining five members are completely out of their contracts. So that is really great.
That's amazing.
Um,
That's good to hear.
yeah, it's been a really long story. Some of them weren't able to get out of their contracts, some of them were, and then the remaining ones have had this legal battle for almost 2 years now, and they're finally free. So it's been emotional. Um, since they since Luna, they have split up into different groups because I believe for legal reasons they weren't allowed to be 12 members again because there's South Korean law can get weird.
Hmm.
Um,
I
but
see.
they split into two groups and two of them are soloists. So this is the shelf for all of the post BBC, which is Blackberry Creative, not British Broadcasting Corporation, for all of their projects that they've done after they got out of the Luna contract. And then this is my comic book floppies, which are the individual issues.
Hmm.
Um,
I see.
and then yeah, behind me is kind of the two shelves you can't see are just regular books, so who cares? It's not fandom stuff. But I have my Doctor Who DVDs, Doctor Who books, and then my Gallifrey shelf, which I actually just recently put together. That used to be the Luna shelf, and then I moved it because I needed Gallifrey to have its own moment.
Mhm.
So
Yeah, no, that
I
makes
like to
sense.
keep everything in one spot. I have so much other space in my room that this stuff could be, but like it has to be all in the same spot. My brain has to have it
Oh,
there.
it looks very organized and it makes for a
Thank
nice
you.
backdrop to your kind of videos, your reviews. Yeah, no, it looks
Yeah.
great. I mean, yeah, no, thanks for talking me through it. It looks amazing.
Yeah.
And yeah, no, I mean, also, I mean, you mentioned that you're a cat mum. I believe I think it's four cats if I remember right.
Yes.
That's right.
They've been walking in and out of the room, and I wish one of them was in the room right now, now that you mention them. So
What
you
are their
saw
names?
Nico before we started.
What are their names?
So, oh, Samson's coming in, actually, but he doesn't like to be picked up, so I don't know if I'm gonna be able to show him off. Hi, buddy.
Yeah,
Can I scoop you up? Oh, no, he does not want to be picked up. Okay.
well,
So I have Athena, who is the orange, extremely fluffy cat, and she's the oldest. She's 8. And then Samson, I believe the ages get weird because most of my cats were strays. Um, Samson, I would say, is around 4 or 5 now. He is gray with kind of black striping. And then Nico, we believe, is the third oldest. She's very tiny. She's the very tiny black cat. And then lastly, there's Kevin, who is the white cat with kind of brown spots, and he's blind in one eye. So that's why one of his eyes is, yeah.
no, lovely names for cats. Absolutely lovely names.
Thank you.
I love Athena. Athena's a great name. And Kevin. All of them, all four of them. Great names for cats. Just
Thank you.
no, it's wonderful. I mean, I have I have two cats, Delilah and Dodie, and I had one cat named Tommy who sadly passed away, but those are my three
Oh, I'm
cats.
sorry.
Ah,
Yeah.
no, they were lovely. Oh well. Yeah, no, they were all lovely, lovely cats. And yeah, I've always loved cats. I've always loved having cats. They're lovely creatures, and they become your best friends, really, don't they? They
Mhm.
just become part of the family. I'm going back to the Gallifrey audios because there's some stuff that I really want to talk about there. Because to anyone outside the fandom, it'd be relatively sort of, I guess, niche. I mean, it's not too niche, but it's how would you kind of introduce the series to someone who hasn't listened to it?
I would say the series is a political thriller following Gallifrey, of course, but it focuses on Romana, the Fourth Doctor's companion, who is actually now president of the Time Lords. And then Leela, who stayed behind on Gallifrey as she left the Doctor, is now Romana's bodyguard. And then she has, her sort of political advisor slash colleague slash enemy at the beginning, Irving Braxiatel, who is the Doctor's brother. Although I don't believe they're allowed to say that because of how weird legal rights get with Doctor Who, but he is. And then you have Narvin, who is coordinator of the Celestial Intervention Agency. And he starts off very much as an antagonist and then, has this really incredible character journey into becoming a better person and a better character. Um, yeah, it's a political thriller set on Gallifrey following a cast of characters that really should not work well together and don't like each other all that much, but they end up working together amazingly and growing together as characters and as a group as they sort of try to save Gallifrey, but also change it. As you said, Gallifrey is a very boring and stagnant planet.
Yes.
Romana has plans to really shake things up and change Gallifrey for the better, such as letting non-Gallifreyans onto the planet to study at the Time Lord Academy. And there's a lot of people that don't like that, including Darko, who is actually the Inquisitor from Trial of a Time Lord. She gets her own character and name, and she's great. She's evil, she's awful, but she's
Mm.
great.
She's
So
amazing.
there's so many players involved in all of these politics, and it's such an interesting series in that sense, but really the characters
Mm.
are what make it. Like if you're a Doctor Who fan who really likes character-driven, intellectual, strategic, political stories, you will love Gallifrey. Like I guarantee it.
100% agreed. I mean, it's a really wonderful series. Really wonderful series. And as you said, a really wonderful cast. I love Darko as well. Speaking of
Yes.
the Inquisitor, amazing. I'm quite interested in your takes on the politics of Gallifrey. Not just the audio series, but Gallifreyan history in
Mm.
general, and how it kind of
Oh,
reflects upon our own history. But yeah,
so much.
what are kind of your
I did a great panel about them at Gallifrey One with actually with Gary Russell, Alfie Shaw, and Scott Hancock. I always say that I love to hate the Time Lords because I love media about them. I love seeing how they work. It's just the way that they work is actually awful. Like most of them are terrible people. The way that their society functions is terrible. So much about them, just awful, which in classic Doctor Who, it's more portrayed as the stagnant, boring, apathetic society, whereas in the audio series, you get to see a more complex version of how that actually plays out with a government. Uh, I'm trying to think of the best way to word this. It reflects our society a lot. The earlier seasons of Gallifrey, especially, focus on themes of, anti-immigration.
Hmm.
Xenophobia is very strong in the first couple seasons of Gallifrey. There's this there's this wonderful moment in the first episode where it basically implies that there's a lot of red tape surrounding this planet that they kind of just shove the stuff they don't want to focus on or deal with. And yeah, it's just every time I listen to it, and I re-listen to it a lot too, and it feels like every time I do, there's more and more stuff I pick up on, especially as a lot of stuff happens in the news where I'm just like, oh, that reminds me of a lot of stuff racists are saying these days, or oh, that reminds me of something Trump just did.
Yeah, yeah.
So it really, especially being an American, I think it's very, and you're from the UK, and I think that the UK and America can be similar politically,
Mm.
although very, very different, but there are some similarities. And I think just coming from bigger Western countries, the Time Lords are really, at least in the Gallifrey audio series, a big critique and an example of how being such a big Western civilization, but stagnating and hoarding all your resources to yourself and keeping your society all to yourself and not letting it change or letting anybody new in, such as immigrants, it's a reflection of just how awful that is.
I also think they are massive hypocrites. Like
Oh
the
yeah.
entire
They
civilization,
literally say that their whole thing is non-intervention, but they have the
CIA.
Celestial Intervention Agency. And that's like your first sign that something is very wrong with these people. But they are extremely hypocritical, and it really was like a wake-up call because when you watch New Who, I think the Doctor has kind of rose tinted glasses about Gallifrey,
Mm.
especially in with Ten and Martha, he just talks about the beauty of the planet and not much about the people. And then it's like you go back and watch classic Doctor Who or listen to Gallifrey and you're like, these people suck. Like
Mm.
most of them suck. They are just
I think
terrible.
that is something New Who does well though, is
Mhm.
it has the reflective like the Doctor's thinking about the planets, but then the end of time happens and he's like, these people are monsters, they are awful, and we need to
Yeah.
condense them no matter
They'll
what.
do whatever it takes to protect themselves and their society. You see this, I mean, really a big sense of the Time War is that the reason why it got as bad as it got is because the Time Lords and the Daleks are actually so similar and so matched in
Yeah.
what they have, weapons wise and powers wise, that the two were basically just destroying each other already. It's also just the fact, though, that they were killing billions and billions of people with the consequences of their war.
Mm.
So, yeah, that's a taste of why they're awful in the Time War as well. Because I think definitely in the show they're portrayed more as just kind of victims of the
Yeah.
Time War, whereas Gallifrey sort of fleshes that out into actually with the amount of power that they have, they're kind of just as bad. Not just as bad
Mm.
exactly, but close.
I find each take really interesting when it comes to Gallifrey. I mean, I love Day of the Doctor, and it very much paints them as victims. But what I like about that era is that it's very much the children of the planet is the focus of that episode, which
Mhm.
I really and but then when Hellbent comes along and Rassilon's there, obviously the Doctor is one of the main villains of that story, but it then goes back to painting the Time Lords as horribly corrupt. But then that sort of loses focus on that and then goes to Dot's being villain, which I really like Hellbent, but I think yeah, I really find it interesting how the Time War kind of shook things up and how New Who is and then the Timeless Children came along and it's an episode that I
Yes, I
enjoy.
I love it.
I
And
love
I
it.
will
It's
say,
great.
I don't, were you at my panel at Gallifrey One, the
I I'm not sure if I missed that one or not because I think there was I think I was at what's it called, a Catholic, what's it, the really long one.
Kathy Clatch? Yeah.
Yeah, I think one of
So
those was and I was in
I'm
there.
a big fan of Gary Russell and his writing, and he is obviously kind of one of the big forces behind the Gallifrey series. And he said that he liked the Timeless Children and the Chibnall era, and I just felt so vindicated because it's so hated, but I love it. And so to, have somebody that I admire and enjoy the work of be like, yeah, that what I did enjoy that. I was like, yes, thank you.
It gets it gets Gallifrey completely right, I think. I think it
Yeah.
gets it
Oh yeah.
so like
One
from the
of
fact that
the one of the things we talked about in the panel is with how hypocritical the Time Lords are. Like, of course, they would basically commit genetic theft
mm,
and then paint themselves as, oh no, we're the original, the greatest, like
yeah.
these mythical almost beings. And it's like, well, you stole that from a child, like you committed genetic theft. And it's just so fitting with the way that they act. Like, when I watched The Timeless Children, it was like, yeah, this tracks.
Yeah, no, I mean
This tracks is something they do.
the very foundations of Gallifrey are built upon an abused child. It's
Yeah.
actually like it's completely in character for them, as you said. I mean, they're pompous, arrogant, and they will take. I mean, literally in the Deadly Assassin, like the end
Mhm.
of that story, they rewrite the entire story to make Goth into a hero. I've always found it really interesting, and how that even reflects upon our own history and how it's written by the victors and all that, even present day. But going a bit aside from politics, still talking about Gallifrey, the audio series. Obviously, we talked about a few of the the characters in the series, and there's a lot of interesting character dynamics. You know, Narvin and Leela, Romana and Narvin, Romana and Rax, Leela and Romana. what are some of your favorite character dynamics from that series?
Well, the good thing is that each pairing sort of has a different dynamic from the beginning to where we are now.
Mm.
Oh, if I had to pick my favorites though, hmm. Narvin and Leela, I would definitely say, because Narvin very much starts out as not liking Leela. Narvin does also start out basically very xenophobic before he grows as a person and as a character. And so obviously in the beginning they have an extremely antagonistic relationship. And it's grown so much. I mean, there is a lot of Gallifrey. Not to intimidate people because it is still an easy listen, but seeing them grow from hating each other and from Narvin being this kind of shitty person into him uh I don't want to spoil things, this is the problem. I want to tempt people into listening,
Yeah,
but they end up really supporting each other and loving each other really well, I think, in just a way where if you were to go back and compare the two dynamics, I mean, it's night and day almost.
yeah,
So I would say them. I do really enjoy Romana and Leela's relationship because it starts out not antagonistic, but Leela is not the biggest fan of Gallifrey when the audio series starts. Nico is back, by the way, so I'm just gonna steal her
hello,
for a moment.
Nico. Welcome to the pod.
Uh, but
Mm.
Leela kind of wants to leave and is fed up of Gallifrey and the way that their society works. And Romana, I think, really grows to like her, but sort of emotionally depend on her.
Mm.
And so there's this dynamic where Romana is kind of still trying to tempt Leela into staying by her side. Leela has her very valid reasons for leaving, and then tragedy and the events of the story keep them together time and time again. And they just form this bond that is kind of codependent, not necessarily in a toxic way, but I think they do really all the main characters wind up depending on each other a lot because
Yeah,
they are really alone together in their beliefs and what they fight for most of the series. I will say I do like one of the things we joke about as fans is that we really want the characters to act romantic with each other, but we don't want them to actually get together.
mm.
Because the thing is, Leela and Narvin, I would say, have the most romantic chemistry. Gary Russell even mentioned them being involved at Gallifrey One, but Ramon and Leela get a little bit gay too, in my opinion. And then there's kind of a sort of one-sided crush between Braxitel and Romana. Romana and Narvin, I would say, have kind of a romantic relationship, but it's also to the extent where you can read it as none of that being romantic at all, which I think is very appealing to people because similar to the Doctor in classic Doctor Who, if you're the sort of fan that really likes romance and reading into that and seeing that develop, you can. But also, if you just want to see it as platonic, you can too. And so we like having that
Yeah,
choice.
yeah. I mean, it's a really wonderful thing, and it's a really wonderful series for that. I love the sort of romantic moments between these characters, but you're completely right. I
Mhm.
really want to see them any of them kind of get
I
together.
would I personally wouldn't be opposed to it,
I
but for the people who
mm,
I wouldn't be completely opposed to it, but I do prefer the sort of tense.
yeah,
Are they?
the will they
Yeah, I
won't
think they
they.
are. Are they? Yeah, I think that, the sort of there's just so much tension and I think power that
Yeah,
hangs in the air when you have the two characters be when you have the two characters love each other so much, whether you want that to be platonic or romantic, um, just sitting in the air between them, that love and devotion, but never quite closing the gap,
yeah.
is just it leads to a lot of really tasty moments and
A lot of beautiful,
motivations, I think.
there's a lot of beautiful character writing that can come from that. And I feel like
Hmm.
there are often a lot of amazing sort of opportunities for writing that can come out of the will they won't they rather than the they will or they won't. And I love how Gallifrey does that. I love the dynamics at play. I love how it plays around with that. Have you listened to the most recent box set, Echoes for Eternity?
Yes.
What did you think?
I woke up at 4 a.m. to listen to it the second that it released
Mm.
on time in the UK. That is what I have to do when Big Finish box sets release. If I want to listen to them before any spoilers hit, I have to be up at 4 a.m. So I listened to it quite early, right as soon as it got released. And I really enjoyed it. I'm very happy. The next installment of the current Gallifrey part of the series, which is War Room, got delayed again. So it was nice to have something to bridge
Mm.
things while we waited. It was also the 20th anniversary of the series, which is why they chose to have a sort of special release.
What did you kind of think of it? What did you think of the box set?
I I really enjoyed it. I liked that they went back to different eras of Gallifrey
Mm.
because, we're so far away from where it started, story-wise, there's pretty much besides the core characters, there's an entirely different cast. They're in the Time War now, so there's very different settings and dynamics and things happening than before. Um, so it was really nice to go back and visit that and get new content from that era because there is just so much that I think you could still even do if they wanted to do a second box set from that era. It's like so many different political stories. And it was also good to see Ace again because Ace is also briefly involved with Gallifrey.
Hmm.
And then we got a the fourth season of Gallifrey features parallel world Gallifreys, which is probably one of my favorite seasons of Gallifrey.
It's
And
that's
we
my
got
favorite.
another story as part of that, which was cool. Like it was varied, and it was just nice to visit the different eras of the Gallifrey series again.
Yeah, no, I feel like it was a lovely box set, and I really enjoyed listening to it. And Series 4, you mentioned that one was probably my favorite of
Mhm.
all of them. I love that series. It's such a special series. It's such an inventive series. I absolutely love it. And I personally love parallel universes and multiverses. I think it's so interesting.
Yes.
It's such an interesting concept, and I think even in like general media, I know there's been a lot of multiverse stuff recently, but I don't even think we've touched the surface. Personally, I think there's so much more that can be done with it. But yeah, no, I find it really interesting and I find Gallifrey really interesting. But you also mentioned, and I know this of course, but you're a Gallifreyan scribe.
Yes.
And I saw some of your art at Gallifrey One, because you were at the art auction art show, which was lovely. It was a brilliant time. And you did really well. I love
Thank
the
you.
artwork. The question mark one was my favorite, gotta say, loved that. But
I know I just made a sticker of that because I would say that is one of my favorites that I made for that show. Just yeah, I can't remember what basically it's a Seventh Doctor quote, for the people that haven't seen it, in sort of following the shape of um the question mark, the iconic Seventh Doctor question mark. And yeah, I just think it worked way better than I even thought it was going to.
it was really wonderful. All of your artwork was and is. And of course, you can commission Ivy, everyone watching as well, and I'll leave
Yes.
that link in the description. But how did you kind of get started with that sort of art and that sort of
So I was in middle school which is for UK people when you're kind of like 11 to 13, when I first learned circular Gallifreyan, and I revisited it across the years. And then it was featured on the 15th Doctor's Sonic Screwdriver. So there is a Rwandan proverb, the sharpness of the tongue defeats the sharpness of the warrior. Fun fact, by the way, it's misspelled on the Sonic, which is a whole story journey with how that ended up happening with the official Doctor Who
Mm,
taking on the Circular Gallifreyan, which is fan made. And that really, when I saw that, it was like that passion and that interest just really got sparked in my heart because I recognized it immediately. I
mm.
was like, that is Sherman's Gallifreyan. That's what I know how to write in. And so I picked it back up, but really it was meeting the community of scribes that helped me develop it because I was sort of using basic techniques. I wasn't using some of the cooler techniques that you can use. And then, got linked up with them and fixed a lot of my errors that I was doing and just developed it so much and just got more and more interested and involved and passionate about it. And then it grew into me doing a lot of it now.
It's really fascinating, and I really do love the artwork you put together. It's a fascinating
Thank
backstory
you.
behind it all as well. I mean, but I'm glad it went down really well at Gallifrey One as well. I mean, that whole art auction is really special, genuinely, and I'm sure
Yeah.
it went down well. Something that I like to ask everyone about on this show, and it goes hand in hand with creativity. Sometimes, unfortunately, but then it can inspire bigger projects, but also people have their different way of coping with it, different processes, but it's about burnout. And it's something that I like to ask everyone who comes on the show. I have done since episode one of it with Jed. How do you kind of deal with burnout? What's sort of your process, advice to people sort of dealing with it?
Uh, I'm not the best at dealing with it, to be honest. I mentioned I try to upload on YouTube more often, but I do have a lot of stuff in my life professionally outside of fandom stuff going on that really sucks up a lot of my time and my energy. And it's this weird sort of limbo where if I don't have a lot going on with that, I almost can't fuel myself to do the fandom stuff as much. Right now is different because the season's on air, so there's a very strong, you got to do this now if you're going to do review videos. But it feels like my body a lot of the time is either in go 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 mode or just complete rest. And so I've really been struggling and trying to find lately a happy medium between that.
Mm,
Um, I think it's really helped thinking about because I have so many ideas all at once, and then I get stressed out because it's like I want to do all of these ideas, and then I can't because there's so much going on in my head that it almost just overwhelms the system and shuts it down. So I think it's helped to have like a spreadsheet where I just put all of my ideas as I get them, and it's like, okay, I can come back to this later. The idea is written down. I don't have to do it now. I do have kind of a project master list that I maintain of what I'm currently working on,
mm,
and I have it limited to 5 spaces. So I try to make it so that I'm only working on 5 things at a time. And if I want to add something new, I either have to finish something that came before or choose to switch it out. So that's really helped, I think, but allowing yourself to rest is a big one. I do not allow myself to rest as much as I should. Getting better at that, definitely, but you gotta realize like you gotta slow down in order to get things done because if you're just go 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 all the time, you are gonna burn up all of your resources and your thinking. And once you get to that point, it's so hard to get out of. So a lot of it's preventative. I think when we think about dealing with burnout, we think about dealing with it when you're already in it. But I think the best thing to do is try and take preventative measures to make sure you don't get to that point. Because once you're there, like, it's going to take a while. And, so of course, people should have patience with themselves for that. But I think definitely preventative things like making sure you're slowing down and taking time for rest, that you're not putting too much pressure on yourself. Obviously, like, especially if you're a fan creator, like, I know we all really want to do super cool stuff. We want to impress people. We want people to see our stuff and really like it and share it around. So we want it to be really, really good. But it's fan creations. It's something you love. It's something you're not getting paid to do.
yeah, it's
It would be amazing if it was. But, taking the time to let yourself slow down and be like, this is a creation of passion. This is not something that somebody is a boss is barking at me to get done. Like this is something that I can take my time with and slow down and take a break from. It doesn't have to be the best thing in the world. Like just as long as you're proud of it, like that's good.
yeah,
Because I think especially in the Doctor Who fan community, because I mean there's so many different people doing similar things and obviously some are more they've been doing it for longer, or maybe they know certain skills that others don't. And so I think there is kind of a lot of pressure, especially in this community, to like make stuff that's really, really, really good. And I think you just kind of have to slow down and be like, hey, at the end of the day,
Yeah.
this is just nerd stuff that we're making.
Yeah. And
Um,
nobody's
sleep.
perfect. And
Sleep
everything.
is a good thing. Um, a good sleep schedule. So not oversleeping or undersleeping is a good thing. Which is easier said than done. I know. Also, I think it's really cool for burnout as a preventative measure to work with others on projects.
Yeah.
Even if it's just bouncing your ideas off of someone, or maybe if you're working on a fanfic, ask somebody else to proofread it, to edit it and get their thoughts. Or if you're editing a fan film, if you can, you know, sort of disperse the work amongst someone else. I think that can really help, not putting everything on yourself.
Yeah. I mean,
There's been times where I'll write a fan fiction and I'll just be like, I can't look at this anymore, but I don't want to post it yet. Can you please just read this? So, make sure it's not having a bunch of errors, but anything preventative that you can do, I think, like anything that makes you feel comfortable and happy and fulfilled, you gotta work that into your work process.
mm,
So I hope I didn't just ramble too much,
no,
but
no, not at all. Not at
yeah,
all. I think you're completely
for
right.
me,
Not that
for
this
me,
is like,
I try to avoid burnout
mm,
as much as possible, which it's inevitable a lot of the time.
oh, yeah.
But the more work you can do to prevent it, the better, because then it won't be as bad. It'll be easier to climb out of. But when I do get burnt out, I think I really try to not completely stop what I'm doing in the sense of what I'm making, but I do try and take more time to focus on what other people are making and what they're doing, because I think that way you find a lot more inspiration for what you want to do next. You might see things differently from how you saw them before, or see something you think you could do that you didn't think you could do before. So I think it's a good idea if you're burnt out to kind of take the focus away from yourself. Because when you're burnt out, the number one thing you think is like, I gotta stop being burnt out. I gotta stop,
And that just
and
gets
that's just gonna
more
make it
burden.
worse because
Yeah.
you're punishing yourself.
Yeah,
So I
exactly.
think it's good to say, I'm burnt out. I need to stop and slow down and maybe just focus on what's around me rather than what I should be doing.
Yeah, no, you're completely right. I think and that's a really in-depth sort of outlook. I really like that.
Mm.
That's definitely one of my favorite answers. Not that I have favorites, but
Thank
yeah,
you.
it's, and I think a lot of it does come down to community, as you said at the beginning,
Mm.
that people sort of, you can talk to people, you can ask for help. There's no shame in that, no stigma in that in this community. At least I hope there isn't. I know there are in almost definitely circles out there that maybe that is, but genuinely, it's a community. Everyone's here to help each other. If you're feeling burnt out, just look for a friend, ask a friend, and look around
Well,
you.
and we all experience burnout.
Oh yeah,
So
yeah.
I mean, if you talk to anyone, they're, I mean, just living in a capitalist society, everybody gets burnt out, not even in the fandom aspect. So if you talk to anybody about being burnt out, I guarantee you they're gonna be like, yeah, that happens to me all the time. And they're gonna have their own ideas or just be able to comfort you and validate you. So,
No, so you've been a YouTuber, occasionally doing YouTube for about, what was it, about 6 years, 7 years, something like that now.
oh God, yeah.
Sorry, it's just throwing it
That's
out there.
yeah.
But what have been some of your highlights as a creator on this platform? What plans do you have for the future?
Hmm. So I was trying to think of some really cool plans for the future. Basically, last summer I graduated college with my bachelor's degree, and
Congratulations.
then I did get burnt out. Thank you. And then I did get burnt out and was just have been in a slump since. And was planning on getting out of that slump, and then now I'm getting my master's degree. So I'm getting right
Congratulations,
back
by the way.
into the fire. But the good thing is like I said earlier, when I'm so busy professionally, it tends to fuel me more creatively because I'm already in a completely busy mindset that my body is like, okay, well, let's just do it with this now. So I think I might be able to do a lot more in the future, thankfully, depending. I don't ever want to completely promise things. Um, some highlights, I would say I definitely did a video. I did a video about this theory or rumor that the BBC series Leonardo, which is about a
Okay, yeah, I
young
love that video.
was it was a reworked Doctor Who spinoff about the Doctor in his academy days. I loved making that video. I loved making that video. I enjoyed doing reviews, but it's not really something I it's not that I don't enjoy doing it, but it's not something I'm crazy passionate about. It's not like I don't want my channel to be all reviews, which in for this past year it really has been because I got so busy with my degree. But I really do want to make more videos like that one. I do have a review coming out soon that I'm very proud of. I can't talk about it yet, but I'm very proud of it. Um and I do have some videos I want to make about the current series, like theory videos, but I can be a perfectionist sometimes, so I have to work on that. I have in my project master list, I believe I counted it recently, and it was 56 video ideas that I have not done.
Wow.
That are just sitting in the arsenal waiting for me to get my crap together and make them. I definitely want to make a more silly videos. Like I'm trying to think of the ideas off the top of my head. I wanted to make one video trying to figure out which companion would have been the most expensive to dress behind the scenes, like trying to figure out how much their outfits cost because I know a lot of cosplayers track down the actual clothes.
That
I
would be
wanted
incredible.
to make a video about Gallifrey for sure, just highlighting stuff that is lesser known. I think unique stuff. I want to do unique stuff for sure. So, I another idea I had is to go through my closet, all of the Doctor Who clothes that I have because I have a lot of Doctor Who related clothes. Um, yeah, I don't want to give away all my ideas, but
Of
I
course, of
definitely do
course.
want to focus on more out there, unique stuff similar to the Leonardo
That Leonardo.
video stuff where if you think about Doctor Who YouTube, you wouldn't think about it. What I want to do, basically.
And I like the idea of it just being fun and those fun
Yeah.
videos and out there videos. I mean, I think that's some of the best content out there on YouTube at the moment in
Mhm.
general, but also just Doctor Who videos. I think looking at like big YouTubers like Just Snares, I think there's a reason
Oh,
for those
I
videos
love them. I
are
love them.
brilliant. They're brilliant, and the videos
Just
are like
absolutely
so
amazing.
out there, and it's yeah, no, I think there's a reason those videos kind of stand out and they're so fondly looked at. But yeah, no, I mean, another thing I wanted to ask you about, another sort of few projects that you've done aside from YouTube is the zines. I believe they're called zines, zines.
Yes.
Yeah,
I say zines because it's I
it's
believe from the word magazine.
yeah, it would
So
be.
you would say a zine. So, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, what's it been like? Because you've worked on two scenes, am I right?
Yes.
What was it like working on those? I believe one's about the Gallifrey, the audio series, I believe.
Yes, it's
Like,
behind me.
oh,
So
wow.
I wrote a story for this one and I am so I I'm a perfectionist. So I was kind of frustrated with how my story turned out. I didn't like it at the time, but I think that was more just me putting pressure on myself.
Hmm.
So sometime soon I need to reread it because I'm sure I'll feel better about it once I reread it. And then I worked on the Champions zine for my favorite comic book series, which is what I used to make YouTube videos about. That's what I started with. And it's been really great. I love the concept of zines with my whole heart because I'm very passionate about fan creativity and fan community and seeing a community come together and make not only a physical book filled with either art or fan fiction or both, but their own merch and usually most of the time you donate to charity. That's the whole idea behind it. There's just so much to love about it. Like, people coming together to make not a product, but a project. Technically, it is a product, but more a project all together, like a culmination of so much fan creativity and fan passion and fan works. And then not only do people get to take that home and keep that,
Mm.
especially if it's for something as underrated as Gallifrey. Now you have something fan made that's all this fan merch that you wouldn't have ever had merch before, but also donating to charity. I mean, these days zines raise a lot of money, especially if
They
it's
really
for
do.
a more general topic. And so that's amazing to see just how much money we can raise for charity and for good.
Yeah, I know there's a few based on the
Hmm.
Master and 13, some put together by Cat and Nat. I
Yes.
know there was I believe it's called Other Lives, but I know it's one based on the Morbius Doctors, which is
Yes.
I
Sorry.
not
My
forgotten them.
my partner and a lot of my friends are very into that series. So it's not a fanzine,
Hmm?
technically, I don't think. So it's you might be thinking of Forgotten Lives,
Forgotten Lives.
which is it's from Obverse Books.
Mm,
And so I don't know,
I'm not
I
sure.
think it counts as more of a charity anthology,
Yeah, yeah,
which there's a very thin line between the two.
yeah.
Um, but those are great. I have started the first one. I have not finished them all, but I've from what I hear, they're incredibly good.
Mm. Oh yeah, they are incredibly good. I do love that period in history, Doctor Who wise, Doctor Who's fictional history as well. And I think it's rife with storytelling potential. I mean, I'm glad that it's not too delved into most of the time, but I love it when it is. And I'm a big fan of that sort of side to Gallifreyan history, whether it be Time's Child or Longbarrow or any sort of that sort of history. Is there any part of Gallifreyan history that hasn't been delved into as much that you would be interested in seeing?
Hmm. This is tricky because I haven't, as much as I love Gallifrey, I haven't consumed all of the media
Mm,
about it. Like the Eighth Doctor novels, the Virgin New Adventures, I know involves a lot of Time Lord stuff, and then Big Finish audios that I haven't listened to involve Gallifreyan stuff. Um, hmm. I enjoyed the first Fugitive Doctor box set, but I wish there was more focused on Division and what that is or what it could be. Um, I want to say like the very earliest days of Gallifrey, but I also hate Rassilon, so I don't know if I could handle
Yeah,
a
he's
lot
not
of
a very
him.
lovable guy. He's not,
Yeah.
yeah, no,
Um,
Rassilon is not
I
great.
think it would be interesting to explore the post-Time War period before they get destroyed in the Timeless Child again.
Mm,
Um, seeing how they handle, I mean, obviously this was in Hellbent, but we're only seeing a part of it, seeing how the greater planet and society handles rebuilding from that,
mm,
um, and picking themselves back up, but also handling the fact that they're basically in like a bubble pocket universe.
mm.
I think you could at least get like one box set out of that. That would be really interesting.
Yeah, rebuilding after the Time War, that sort of side to life. I think it'd be interesting, definitely. I mean, yeah, no, I'd be interested in that. Yeah, no, there are some very interesting parts in Gallifreyan history. I'd like to see how they write their own myths and legends. I would like to see
Ooh.
it in their kind of words, how they kind of write it. Maybe something of a scene one day of just like Gallifreyan legends or whatever. I think that'd be really interesting now that I think about it. But yeah, no, what sort of some of my last questions, mainly my last question really is, I mean, we mentioned it earlier, but you also just got accepted into the master's degree program, which congratulations, as
Yes.
I said,
Thank you.
really congratulations. Are you looking forward to it?
I am. I am unfortunately very addicted to writing, academic writing and researching. And so I was kind of sad when I graduated and it's like, oh, I don't have to write another paper again. I mean, at the time when I finished, I was like, thank God. And then I was immediately like, oh, but I don't have to do that anymore. I mean,
Mm.
obviously you can do it on your own time, but it's kind of hard to get motivated if you're doing it on your own time. So I am very passionate about learning and research, and I'm excited for it. Yeah, I think it'll be very stressful, but I know I can handle it. And so I am very excited about it.
Yeah. Well, as I said, that was perhaps my last question. I'd like to thank you for coming on the show. You've been brilliant.
Yeah.
But genuinely, it's been really nice, and it's been really nice getting back to this series. But thank you for coming on the show, genuinely.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me.
Yeah,
Yeah,
if
it was
you,
good to chat with you, especially since it's been 2 months since I
yeah,
mean, we've chatted since then, but since we had a long, proper chat.
yeah, no, it's been nice to kind of get back into the flow of things, and I believe you're down in the UK for like around Big Finish Day that time. It'd be
Yes, I will be at Big Finish Day, and I'm very excited.
I'm very excited for that as well. I'm really looking forward to it, and it'd be nice to see you again. If you have anything to plug slash promote, please by all means, this time now.
Yes. So my YouTube channel is at Protagonist Ivy. That is also my Twitter handle, my TikTok handle. My Instagram handle is Protagonist Ivy with an underscore at the end because for some reason they wouldn't let me. Nobody's taken it, so I don't know why they won't let me have it, but they won't let me have it. And I post a lot about my Gallifreyan art there, but you can also just find me on Ko-Fi, spelled Ko-Fi at Protagonist Ivy, and that's where I host all of my stickers and Gallifreyan commissions and post about my art a lot. You'll also see me at Gallifrey One if you ever want to say hi. I love meeting people and talking with people. So you'll see me there mostly. I don't really do any other conventions because they stress me out, but you will see me at Gallifrey One.
I gotta get back there. I really do. Thank you everyone for watching. Genuinely, it's been a lovely video. Make sure to like, subscribe, comment. I will leave all those links in the description below as well that were just mentioned. But yeah, thank you for watching. Bye bye everyone. Bye bye.
Bye.